So I wanted to do another video from the Patrick Bet David podcast. He's sitting down with Dan Bilzerian. Um, I think that Dan is completely right um, on his take, um, especially being MAGA, make America great again, America first. Definitely trying to end a lot of these foreign wars, protecting um, American citizens, foreign and domestically, making sure that our servicemen and women are taken care of, they're protected, and making sure that we take care of our veterans. And if we're spending trillions of dollars on tanks, bombs, and all this other stuff for wars that are really just politicians' wars, then it really becomes hard to make sure that we're supporting the VA and that we're supporting higher pay for servicemen and women.
We're on a mission to get 1 million people to wear this gear, and this is why we test it out. Link above or below. Place your order with the tweets. Present the VT and the PBD
All right, but
podcast gear.
That's good to
here it
know to
is.
see where you're at with that. Let me go to a different conversation with you. Recently, when I watched some of your tweets, I don't know if you've announced this or not. I don't know if you've joined APAC. I don't know if you are, if you are an advisor for them. Let me read some of these tweets. Muslims aren't the problem. The open borders and motherfuckers and the media attacking nationalism, pushing DEI, transgenderism, and destroying moral values are the problem. August 4th. If you don't put America first as a U.S. politician, you are committing treason. Supporting Israel is bad for America. Netanyahu is a convicted war criminal, and Israel is not our ally. We fought way too many wars for Israel, and we certainly don't need to give them any more money. July 25th. These idiots have ruined movies. Everything they put out is literally propaganda. And then all of a sudden, we got scripture here. For what shall it profit? For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Is this recent, comments you're making about Israel a recent thing, or have you always had these beliefs?
It's more recent. I didn't really realize what a problem it was until recently, and then everybody was scared to say something about it. My brother told me, like, you can't say anything about it. They'll fucking kill you. Like, everybody basically said that I couldn't say anything about it. And actually now they're like literally like trying to like kick me off the board of my company because of those tweets. So, like, shit. Yeah, I've definitely had a lot of like negative pushback, a lot of my Jewish friends, but I don't give a fuck. It's like one of those things where I know that it's the right thing. And the fact that everybody else is scared to say it makes me, feel obligated to be vocal about it.
Why do you think it's the right thing?
And everything he's previously tweeted is 100%. And the reason why I do like Dan Bilzerian um is because motherfucker got balls. He's got a backbone. He's not afraid to say it. Obviously, I have had a chance to watch a lot of this clip of the podcast. I didn't want to review the whole thing because that's not. It's pretty much about his previous how he lives in his previous life. But Dan is spot on. Um, and I just love that fucking I don't give a fuck attitude. It's something that I relate to. And yeah.
Think.
Because I know that they're a fucking parasite. Like, they provide the U.S. absolutely no value. They've done so many things that, would constitute, an act of war against us. I mean, USS Liberty, Lebanon Affair, I mean, I can go on and on and on and on and on. But, I think they knew about 9/11. I think they had JFK assassinated. The first thing that he wanted to do, right before he died was, make APAC a foreign entity, and not allow them to have nukes. And then all of a sudden this fucking guy's dead. And Jack Ruby, who is Jack Rubenstein, I mean, it's just like, and then you just, I don't know, man, I can't ignore all the shit that they've done. They sold our secrets. Netanyahu lied to us about weapons of mass destruction. We fought all these fucking wars. My friends have died over there. And I just look at what they provided us with, and it's fucking, it's not nothing. It's like a negative, it's not, even if they just didn't do jack shit, that would be, bad, but they've actually done things to hurt us over and over and over again. So like this whole thing of they're our greatest allies, just complete fucking bullshit. And, we send them $100 billion, then they send APAC $100 million, and then they distribute it to our politicians, and every politician is a little fucking APAC handler walking around and telling them what to fucking say and how to vote. And it's just like, look, I'll donate like $100,000 to politicians, and they call me up like, hey, you need anything? Like every week. I don't need shit. I fucking sit on my ass. I don't do anything. I don't care. I don't fucking break any laws. I don't need any favors. Like, I just gave it to them because I didn't want to see any more fucking retard, Democrats in there. So, but that's 100,000. Like, what does 100 million buy you? How many fucking phone calls do those guys get? And so, like, I just don't know how it works. And the system is broken. Like, these people get into office and they don't have very much money, and they get out of office with fucking tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not a fucking accident, right?
Is that an Israel thing, or is that anybody? Because China's doing the same thing.
China doesn't have they don't have an APAC. Like, Israel is the only one that has a fucking, like, a lobby in the U.S. fucking, giving these politicians money.
Okay, no, every country, the big ones all have lobbyists. They all have lobbying that they're doing.
Not in the U.S. They're registered as foreign entities.
Right. I mean, if you're talking about, are you going to the dual citizenship part with Israel, Israel?
That's another problem is
And this is kind of like where I kind of push back at Patrick. You know, you have to really talk about why is it that Saudi Arabia obviously has a lobby, China obviously has a lobby, um, but they all have to register as foreign agents, and yet Israel doesn't. Um, we have to really answer. We have to not. There are answers to these questions, but we have to ask ourselves, why are we so lenient on this country that has literally done us irreparable harm? But this is why I push back at Patrick, kind of going off a different tangent that has nothing to do with the seriousness of you know being registered. It is so serious that Hunter Biden is part of what he was in trouble for with the whole Burisma thing for not registering, because even him as an American didn't register in another country. So this is how serious this is.
a lot of our politicians have far more allegiance to Israel than they do the United States. I mean, that's a whole nother issue as
Do you
well.
know why they did the dual citizenship? Do you know the history behind why they did the dual citizenship?
What do you mean?
Like, so the whole concept of dual citizenship was because when Israel became a country again, they didn't want the people from here who wanted to go back to Israel that didn't have a motivation to go if they were going to lose their citizenship here. So that was the reason why they did it. It was kind of like, okay, you're your own country. We kind of need some of you guys to move over there to help the country out. Yeah, but I'm not going to go. Why are you not going to go? Am I going to lose my citizenship here? But you are. I mean, we don't do that. Every other country, I don't want to lose my citizenship. Well, okay, how about if we do this? How about if we allow you, just Israel, to go back to your country, you won't lose your citizenship? That was the arrangement at the beginning why they did it that way.
No, look, I get it. I have 3 citizenships. You know what I mean? I think it's okay. I think
What's the third one? I know Armenia, but what's the
St. Kitts.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't have an issue with dual citizenship. My issue is when somebody is holding a U.S. office and they are putting a foreign nation's interest before America's interest, and they are favoring that other country. And so that to me is treason. Like, when you are a U.S. government official, your motivation should be to do things in the best interest of the government that you are representing, not some other fucking foreign country. And that's the problem.
Okay, so but go through it. So what is the solution? Meaning, if Israel's the enemy, then if let's just say,
And I've heard Patrick on other podcasts, or on his podcast, but on other um episodes. The real problem is money in politics. When you sit here and allow big corporations and other countries to be able to buy politicians, that is in itself un-American. These companies are not entitled, themselves are not entitled to a First Amendment. They don't have a freedom of speech. They don't even have a speech. Now, if, you know, such and such CEO wants to give a politician money, I mean, you can't really subvert that. But if, prime example, if Walmart wants to give a politician money to be able to get a subsidy or a tax incentive to build a Walmart distribution center somewhere, that's wrong. But if one of the Walton kids want to give a politician money, I mean, you have to definitely question the reasoning why. But the real problem is that person, that individual, the Walton individual, has a First Amendment right, but Walmart, the company, shouldn't. And it's the same thing with these foreign countries. I mean, I got to push back at Patrick on this because you really have to overturn Citizens United. You have to have a constitutional amendment that literally details um, where the money's coming from, who's it going to, and even if you look at somebody like Bernie Sanders or even Matt Gaetz, I think if I remember correctly, Matt Gaetz even um, didn't accept big corporation money. But I'll get back to you on that. I'm gonna let y'all finish watching this.
You don't do anything, and everybody in the Middle East unites to take out Israel. Do you think the Middle East is better without Israel? And do you think the world's a safer place without Israel?
100%. It's not even close.
Okay, tell me why. Why do you think?
Give me an argument otherwise, please.
But
give me one argument why the world would be better off with Israel. Let's just start with that. One thing. Give me one thing.
Have you ever lived in the Middle East?
No.
I lived there for 10 and a half years. It's a very, it's not as like here. You can sit here, you can be an atheist, you can be an agnostic, I can be a Christian, he can be a Jew, he can be an LDS, Muslim, no problem.
So, Matt Gaetz did swear off PAC money in according to Politico in 2020. He would no longer accept campaign contributions from federal political action committees. So yeah. But this is a quote that he had said at the Conservative Political Action Conference. Honest capitalism is under attack. Um, of course, he references Bernie Sanders, Antifa, the radical left, just talking points. But this is the part. But by special interests and political action committees in the swamp of Washington, D.C. So yeah.
We can coexist here. You can do that in Israel. You can do that.
I mean, not really. They're operating apartheid right now. So everybody's not living equally.
Not at the level of Iran. Not at the level of what Iran is doing. I mean, in Iran, if you're thinking what Israel is doing out of control, do you know how much money Khamenei's families made? Do you know how much money they've taken? They have 200.
I've never been to Iran, but I've been to Dubai. I've been to Saudi. Like I've been to UAE. So like, and they're all Muslim. They seem to be operating fine.
I would say Iran's slightly different than. But go back to it. So okay. So you think the Middle East and the world would be a better place if Israel didn't exist?
Yes.
Okay.
Israel's committed, so many terrorist attacks. They're stealing land right now. They're operating apartheid. They're currently committing a genocide on Palestinians. Like, do you believe in the genocide they're committing?
I think they're fighting for themselves and they're defending themselves.
Do you think that's defense?
Well,
when 1,200 people died, and of which the 1,200 you've killed and admitted that you've killed a lot during, your handle.
I will tell you this. The part I question where people who are Jewish can't stand when I say this, I don't know how you, Netanyahu, claim you have the best intelligence in the world, Mossad, and you didn't know that on October 7th they were attacking
you. About it. They didn't. They wanted it to happen, so they had a reason to take that. Yeah, they wanted
But you notice how he dodged the genocide question?
a reason to take the land.
I totally get it.
And they killed their own citizens. And they claimed that all these people got raped. That was bullshit. They claimed beheaded babies. That was bullshit. Everything that they said was a fucking complete. Not only was it a lie, but they committed all those atrocities themselves to the Palestinians and been caught doing it. In fact, they just got caught gang raping Palestinians. How many babies have they killed? All the things that they accuse the Palestinians of or Hamas of or whatever, they're guilty of 100-fold themselves. And they've been doing that. Like October 7th wasn't the start of this. Like the start of this was Nakba. They've done so many different.
Disagree. Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not like October 7th is like it's all of a sudden they just came over there unsolicited and just killed people. Like they had been killing Palestinians for years and years, operating two sets of justice. It's like they have the justice for the Palestinians and the justice for the Israelis. And if you read the Talmud, like if you're not Jewish, you're basically not a human. You're like like cattle. If a Jew is killed by somebody that's not Jewish, then it's the death penalty. If a Jew kills somebody that's not a Jew, then you can't kill them. It's not the death penalty. Like they literally like segregate in their Bibles.
They're very protective of themselves. I don't think anybody can debate that. I don't think it's a
well. It's not the problem isn't that they're protective of themselves. The problem comes when you think that you're better than other people, and you think it's okay to lie to anybody that's not a Jew. You think it's okay to steal from people that are not a Jew. You have two sets of standards. The problem with that is
Our whole banking system is based upon usury, which I may go into at a later date, but if not, definitely look into what usury is and how our banking system, including the Federal Reserve, have kind of bit this off the um, Rothschild family, and how the Rothschilds kind of took over Europe.
it allows you to rationalize anything, right? And human beings are generally self-serving creatures. So if your fundamental religious belief system allows you to operate in such a way that you believe there isn't consequences to stealing from other people, killing other people, raping, kids that are under 9 years old, like if you think those things are okay, then, how are you going to operate? Because to me, like my moral code keeps me on track.
I don't think that's what it is. I don't think it's because you're saying it one-sided. You're not telling the other side of the story of what they're doing either. You're not saying what Hamas did. You're not saying what they did.
What did Hamas do?
I mean, from day one, when you see the rapes and the videos, we've all seen it. This isn't something
What rapes and videos?
But stay on this here if you want to continue with this.
But what rapes and videos?
But my concern when you're saying Israel's doing it, you're saying the other side isn't doing anything.
No, but I'm asking. There was no rapes during October 7th. They've shown no rapes from October 7th. They showed no beheaded babies. All that was all bullshit.
I'll send you stuff. No, there's plenty of stories. It's not all of them.
The Israeli articles that I saw recently said that there was only 2 babies killed. One was shot by a bullet, and the other one died in a hospital. There was no babies in ovens. There was no beheaded babies. All that was all bullshit.
Okay, so go back to the part when you said they think they're better than you. You believe that Jews think they're better than everybody else.
It says it in their Bible.
Okay, but you believe they're better than everybody else. Okay.
But I do kind of want to interject onto what Dan is saying. The Bible is a group. Okay, what we know as the Bible is 66 books, and of course you can go to the Dead Sea Scrolls, New Testament Apocrypha, the Maccabees, and the the unreleased things that haven't been released by the Vatican. That is in its entirety the Bible. They kind of stick with a shorter version of the Old Testament. So to kind of conflate the Bible is more of everything pre-Jesus, the life, um, death, and resurrection of Jesus, and then the apostles, and all the way up to you know the Book of Revelation, and of course you can talk about Peter's Revelation and all this other stuff. But that is the Bible. So I do kind of push back on people when they sit there and say the Bible, because you know non-messianic Jews don't accept the entirety. They don't accept Christ. They don't accept Jesus. So I do want to push back on that.
I didn't say they're better than everybody else.
They think.
According to their scripture.
Okay, but what if...
And if you look at how they operate, right, like they literally caught people raping Palestinian prisoners, and there was riots. But the riots weren't because they were raping the prisoners. The riots were because they felt like they had the right to rape the fucking prisoners. That's why they almost had a fucking civil war, because they felt like they had the right to rape these prisoners. They felt like that was okay because they weren't Jewish. So
to kind of give a little bit of detail of what he's talking about, there were several soldiers who did commit rape. They were incarcerated, and a riot broke out outside the base. They went into the base and freed those soldiers who were accused of SA. So that's kind of what he's kind of talking about as far as detail.
When you have a society that operates like that, you're going to have fucking problems. And they're not the fucking most moral army. That's all fucking bullshit. Everything that they say, it's just like almost like, listen, when somebody lies to me, like if you lie to me, I'm not probably going to trust you again. You lie to me a second time, I'm definitely not going to trust you. You lie to me a third time, and I let you lie to me the third time, I'm the fucking idiot. These motherfuckers have lied like 10,000 times. So like, I don't believe anything they say anymore.
I come from a place of I don't sit here expecting you to tell me 100% the truth. I don't sit here thinking, yeah, Dan's going to tell me 100% the truth with whatever he has in his life. I don't expect that from you because I don't expect people to walk on water. That's not my expect. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to live it with my life, but you can't think that China's going to tell us the truth, or Iran tells us the truth, or U.S. tells everybody the truth, or you think any country is going to tell us 100% the truth.
But I don't know, man. I got a different moral code. Like in gambling,
It's not about you
in,
having a different
but in
moral
gambling
code.
and business, like with my friend group, like you lie one time, you welch on a debt, you do one
You're
thing.
talking friendship, though.
I'm just saying, my friends, people that I know, people that I do business with, people I gamble with, like
It's the same thing I have as well. It's the same thing most people have. There's a difference between on the personal side than on the countryside. So you're America first. Is it fair to say you're America
Yes.
first? Okay. How do you feel about the protesting and the rioting going on in schools, academia, Harvard, Columbia, when you've seen all the stuff that's going on, Free Palestine, gays for Gaza, when you see that, what do you think about it? Does it do anything to you, or you're like, let me support them?
I mean, I think it's pretty funny that it wasn't a problem until it was against Israel. It wasn't a problem with BLM. It was fucking encouraged with
There's
BLM.
always a problem with
Bullshit.
BLM.
They fucking encouraged it. They let them burn down police stations. There was no
For me,
repercussions.
nah, I'm not talking
No,
mainstream.
no, I'm talking about
Yeah.
our government, our media encouraged that shit, right? They encouraged it when it was BLM. Like, they literally burnt down police stations and it was fine. The mayor came out and was like, no problem, no arrests, no big deal. We don't give a fuck.
Right.
Take down statues, destroy buildings, burn cop cars, do whatever you want to do. But the moment it was Israel, now all of a sudden,
Why do you think they were
students
okay with
get
that?
the shit beat out of them. They get arrested. They get pepper sprayed. They get fucking maced. And those are peaceful protests. BLM was not peaceful, but it was fine because it wasn't criticizing Israel. What does that tell you?
Let me ask you a question.
Well, we'll answer that. What does that tell you? Who's in charge here?
But you're talking to a guy that I'm not sitting here saying would be. I'm talking to you like you and I. I'm not talking to you with.
Bro, Dan is cooking Pat, bro. Dan is cooking the shit out of him. So now he always wants to change this topic. And so, yeah.
$2-3 billion of damage they did to small business owners in communities that African Americans are living in, and who controls mainstream media? And there's only 2 outlets right now. We're talking to a couple of your friends here that were during lunchtime. We're having a conversation while we're having dinner with who controls mainstream media. The left. The only one that's on the right is one. Okay, and that's also going to the left. Who controls CNN, CBS, ABC? That's left. Who controls universities? Left. Who controls schools?
Well, it's like 90-something% Jewish.
Right. So-
I mean,
so-
we could say left, but it's Jewish if we're being honest.
Not necessarily, because even right now, if you think about it, if you think about the right and the left, okay, who's taking the biggest hit with losing Jewish voters? Because most Jews vote left. They're not voting on the right.
Jewish vote is
politically.
irrelevant. They're like 2% of the population.
But the money that they vote with their money.
I mean, yeah, but like at the end of the day, I think how much money goes into these campaigns isn't going to dictate as much as when you have a president that's like potentially getting assassinated. Like those are the drivers. I mean, Kamala Harris is a drunken school teacher. Like she can't even like formulate a coherent sentence. I mean, I don't know. The idea of voting for her just seems crazy. My biggest criticism of Trump is his support of Israel. I mean, aside from that,
Why do you think he's supporting Israel?
because of money. That's why they all fucking support Israel. Money.
Well, you said it's not about money a minute ago.
Well, he wants money. I mean, these politicians are run. I mean, there's 2 reasons to run for president.
Right.
Because you're a good person and you want to do good.
Okay.
Or because you want fucking money
Sure.
and fame. That's it. It's the only reason somebody would join
So you're a
president.
good person,
Or you want money and fame.
and fame.
That's it.
2 reasons why you run.
Why else would you
Why
run
do you
for
think
president?
Trump's reason is?
Money and fame.
You think he wants money and fame?
100%.
You think Trump's running because he wants money and fame?
100%.
He has money. He is famous.
He wants people to love him. He wants attention. I mean, he was doing like reality shows for Christ's sakes. Like he wants more money.
I
for
totally
sure.
get it, but you think he is more, he is, how much you think it matters for Trump to be liked?
I think he wants people to like him.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if that's the case, he should have never ran, because ever since he ran, people don't like him. That's
I get it.
where-
Well, I mean, but that's fame is like that. I mean, fame is polarizing. Like,
There's a
I
big
mean,
difference,
there's
though,
very
right?
few people that become famous that don't have people hate them. I mean, it comes with the territory. Like,
mean,
if you want to be loved, you're going to be hated as well. It's just, that's the
in
way it is.
2014, he could have been invited to Beyonce and Jay-Z's party in 2014. In 2014, he would have been invited to, you know, what NAACP in 20. He went to everything. So
It's one thing to be invited to parties, another thing to have international
No, I'm talking
status
from
and,
the
and
right
legacy,
side.
and I mean,
So the reason why I brought the money side with Jews. So who do you think the recent event with October 7th hurt more, the left or the right, politically?
October 7th. What do you mean?
Israel, Hamas, like this whole back and forth. Which political party you think has lost more, taken a bigger hit with their position they've taken with the Jews?
I mean, they're both pro-Israel. So I don't think it's a left against the right when it comes to Israel, and that's like what people think is like. But it's just a distraction. Like they're both pro-Israel. They're both. I mean, fucking Biden's giving Israel shitloads of money. Like, what do you mean? Trump's gonna give shitloads of money. Trump's gonna fucking go to war with Iran. What are you talking about? They're both fucking.
You think Trump's going to go to war with Iran?
He said he's going to.
No, it's his way of saying to not go to war.
He said he's going to.
He puts the same way he said with everybody else that he was going to push them. Or more didn't happen. He said.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like he said that he was going to.
So then let me ask you. So who would you vote for today? It doesn't sound like you're voting for anybody.
I mean, if I had to choose between those two, Trump for sure. I don't even think it's close. I mean, Kamala's half a fucking retard. And she pushes, all this woke left ideology. It's just nonsense. Like, I mean, she's a fucking complete moron. Not that Trump is like a super genius either, but like light years past her. I mean, she was like one of the most hated people. Like how she even got the fucking nomination is beyond me. Like how they didn't give it a big mic is crazy. Like
you ever heard of, you're so funny. You ever heard of eugenics?
Eugenics?
So for those who don't know who Big Mike is, there's a claim that Michelle Obama is really a man. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not really sold on her being a man, honestly. Not saying it's not possible. These doctors with these scalpels these days. I personally don't think she's a man, but I do understand the claim. But the reality is, Michelle Obama was pretty much has a higher approval rating than Barack Obama. The only other person within the Democratic Party that Michelle Obama didn't have a higher ranking for was Bernie Sanders. So either one of those two would have beaten Donald Trump. But of course, Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama snubbed Joe Biden's second term. And then he snubbed them back by automatically endorsing Kamala Harris. So that's how we ended up with Kamala instead of a possible Michelle Obama 2024.
Eugenics. Eugenics. You ever heard of that? Okay. You ever seen MIT stats showing that Ashkenazi Jews' IQ is the highest IQ in the world? You ever heard about that or not?
I believe it. It's up there. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen the IQ studies. Yeah.
So what do you think about that? The fact that they have a higher IQ. How do you process that information?
What do you mean?
You have a pretty high IQ, right?
Okay,
I mean, I don't know what the score is. I've seen some. What's this? I've read it multiple different places. What's the score you got?
I don't know. I mean, I was in the 99th percentile when I was in 8th grade and got accepted to Duke on a scholarship. I mean, I've tested okay. I'm a smart guy.
Okay,
I get it,
but do you think the part about like, okay, I'm a Syrian and I'm Armenian, and then I'm born in Iran and I'm in living in America. Armenians, try bring them together. It's tough. They're divided. Assyrians.
I don't know about that. Go to Glendale, buddy.
No, I lived in Glendale for 6 years.
What do you mean? They're pretty. I mean, every Armenian that I ever meet is like, bro, you're Armenian. It's like I have seen
the pride is right.
I've seen more Armenian pride than any other.
Yeah, but you're talking. These guys are coming to you. You have different types of Armenians, right? And even right now in Armenia, with what they're going through with, Pashinyan and some of the political stuff. You were there in 2018 with your brother and your dad when you guys went there and got your citizenship. But Assyrians, they're divided. It's the older, the church, the club, the this, the that. You can't unite these guys together, right? The closest thing I'll say with Jews, the level of unity that they have is Muslims and Mormons. Mormons are super united, Muslims are super united, and Jews are super united. That's one part that they have the edge. But then if you look at their IQ, and if somebody's IQ is higher, they're generally going to make better decisions in business, if that is correct, right? If IQ is correct.
Is that what you're, so you think that that 6 out of the 10 richest people in America are Jewish? You think it's just IQ related?
You think they started off with money when they started creating their wealth?
I think if you look at college admissions and you look at how many Jews get admitted versus how many whites, they lump themselves in, in a separate category. And 75% of college, what is it? 75% is Jewish?
Of what? Admissions?
I
don't know the exact
college executives.
What
Ivy League.
The number I have is, in the world, there's 267 Jewish billionaires. That's 10% of all the billionaires, while they're only 0.2% of the world, right? So that's a 5% overrepresentation. In America...
Wait, you're saying they're 2%? They're not 2% of the world, they're 0.02. If
that's what I said, 0.2.
No, they're not. I think it's 0.02.
If you do 9 billion, they have roughly 15 million people.
Okay.
So 0.2% of 8 billion is like 16 million, and that's what they have.
Okay.
0.2%,
yeah. Not 2%.
No, we're saying the same thing. We're saying the same thing. So in U.S., 132 Jewish billionaires out of 756. 17% of billionaires in America are Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
Did that happen accidental? Is that because they work together? Is that a bad thing? Is that something where, it's kind of like saying, when Tom Brady was playing in the NFL, the guy was freaking hated. It's like, oh, Deflategate, or this, or they did this, or they did that.
I don't care that like 90% of sports are black or whatever the fucking statistic is. I don't give a shit if Jews have all the money. I really don't care. I don't care if they run Hollywood. Like, my issue is like culpability with the people that are pushing these fucking bullshit narratives. The media is mostly Jewish, and the media is pushing this fucking DEI.
Yeah.
They're pushing this trans bullshit.
I don't disagree
They're
with
pushing
that.
they push the COVID fucking shit, right? So all I'm saying is I want you to be responsible for what you're in charge of. I don't care if it's the purple people in charge of the banks.
Right.
I don't care if it's the fucking green people in charge of the fucking media. No, but dude, hear me out. I don't care who the fuck it is. I'm saying if the media is the green people and they're pushing COVID and they're pushing DEI, they're pushing transgenderism and they're pushing racism and they're pushing division and they're pushing a degradation of fucking moral fiber, I'm mad at the green people, right? You see what I'm saying? I don't give a shit who it is. I'm saying who is in charge should have some responsibility.
I see it in a different way. Here's how I see it. So I see it as, when I'm coming up, I had my friends, I'm in the insurance game and I'm making $100,000 a year, and it would say, oh my God, look at those guys. All they care about is this, and they help each other out, these different insurance companies. I'm like, yeah, how about we figure out a way to do the same? No, but they have this, and it was almost like a little bit of from a place of victimhood. Like, look what they're doing. I'm like, okay, let me continue. So I grow, then I get to the next level. I'm making a little bit more money, and now I'm in different meetings. So at every level, Dan, my experience, I may be wrong, and challenge me as much as you want and say, rip it apart, the argument that I have.
Okay.
So while you're making 6 figures, you're in a room with 50 other guys making 6 figures, right? You know which guy that's at 6 figures that's going to go to $250,000, and you know which guy's going to get stuck at 100,000, and you know which guy's going to go down because he got lucky. Maybe he landed a big insurance sale that paid him $60,000. You could filter those guys out. You go to $250,000, you saw the same thing. You know who's going to go next level, who's going to stay, who's going to go down. $1 million, 10 million, 50 million, even $1 billion on who's going to go. Like, Elon's probably not going to slow down. But between Elon and Bezos, guess who's probably going to slow down if you chose those two? You may say Bezos. They're both worth a couple $100 billion. They have more money than many countries have. But at every level, eventually somebody stops, right? And some continue at every level. This is in basketball, sports, poker, you name it. I had a big $1 million thing. I'm happy I walk away. To me, the part of it that I see when I'm talking within my community I'm a guy that in my house, I have a 15-foot painting in my house. When you come to Florida, if you ever do, I'll show it to you. In the middle of it, you know who it is? The Shaviran is right in the middle of it. Guess who was the biggest against the Jewish Zion media empire? Guess who was the biggest person that called him out? Him. And what happened to him in 1979? You know what they did to him? They got rid of him in a different way. So you're not talking to a guy that is Jewish or pro this or pro that. For me, I want to see what caused them to go from where they were at to having the kind of wealth that I have today. Can that skill set be transferred to others? The part that you and I can criticize is
But I mean, of course, there's just, freaks of nature who are just purely talented that happen to be Jewish. Seth Rogen, um, extremely funny. Uh, then you're talking about uh, Adam Sandler, crazy fucking hilarious. Um, then you start talking about Dave Smith. Um, there's a lot of people who happen to be Jewish who are truly talented. But then you start to look behind the curtain, and you start to look at some of these record labels. You start to look at these Hollywood execs. You start looking at, who owns the mainstream media or legacy media. You start to look at who owns banks, who's behind BlackRock, who's behind Vanguard, and all these other instances, the institutions. And then you have to ask, how did those people get there? Yes, of course, there's just brilliant Jewish people, or those who are of Jewish descent that are, completely talented, great lawyers, great doctors. Um, but then at the same time, some of these other guys, I mean, they kind of cut some corners, they did some shady stuff. Like, let's look at just the music industry. Um, they are purposely perpetuating um, degrading material within the black community. The fact that somebody like Sexy Red has more airtime than somebody like uh I can't think of that girl's name. She's from Nigeria. Tim's. You know, there's a reason for that. Um, so I really recommend everybody to look at a book. I'm not a huge fan of Thomas Sowell, but this particular book is great. It's called Black Rednecks and White Liberals. Um, and he literally details how this music industry kind of affects black folks. So, and you look at that, you're purposely selling garbage into our neighborhoods, into our communities, and which is to the detriment of us. You know, you know, Sexy Red has a song with the chorus being "fuck my baby daddy," and she's on there with Chief Keef talking about "fuck my baby mama," and y'all really think that this is great. So that's just a small example. I don't really want to give too much right now, but yeah.
what they do with all the power that they have today. We can criticize that all day long. You know, they run media, they run CNN, they do this, and they all tell everybody, you better say this, and you better say that. The Soros, the Bond, Bronfman, all these guys. You can criticize that all day because now you have the power. What do you do with the power? But my interest is, what caused them to get all this money? It's not like one day they woke up, they found something, and the next thing you know, they're doing this. How did they get all this power and this money that they made? Was that pure luck? Was that accidental?
I mean, depends on what field you're talking about. I mean, I think when you kind of stick together and when BlackRock, their execs are 100% Jewish. So when you only hire Jewish people and you give them preferential treatment, I think it's natural for, your race, religion, whatever, to have a higher, success rate when you're banded together and everybody else is divided. And, it seems like America just gets more and more divided by the day. And what would make it easier to conquer a country than to divide it? It's a lot easier, that's why they say divide and conquer, right? So in order to rule a country as a small class, you want the country divided. What's happened in the last 4 years? Our country's more divided than it's ever been. It's more racist, it's more divided, it's more fucking angry. Everybody's fucking pulling each other apart. And, and the same playbook is happening in the UK. So I look at what is going on in the world and I don't think it is a positive thing. And so that is where, I get upset, is because.
But the question is, how did they get the power? How do you think they got their power? Because this didn't happen, just, 70 years ago. They didn't have a country, whatever the timeline is when they got it, right? How did they all of a sudden go from what happens in Germany, then they get their country, then they're able to move up politically, then they're able to move up in media, then they're able to move up in all these different places with finance and Wall Street? What did they do right? How did they get all this power?
Well, I'm not sure if Patrick knows. I feel that he does have an idea, just because he recommended a book. It's called Creatures of Jekyll Island. A look at a second look at the Federal Reserve. I really suggest everybody to go read that. And also, I did a video of her a couple days, either last night or a couple days ago. But Whitney Webb wrote a book called One Nation Under Blackmail. It's a 2-volume series. It's a must read. And another must read is the biography of the Rothschilds, the Rothschild biography. So to kind of detail what he's not explaining is this country was created by this country the size of New Jersey in the Middle East was created by the Italian and Jewish mob, Mayor Lansky, Benny Siegel, Lucky Luciano, the five families. They had came to work together with the deep state. The CIA needed access to the ports during the Cold War. Lucky was in prison, so he had access to the ports. So they went to Mayor Lansky. Mayor Lansky was like, "Look, bro, if you let out my boy Lucky, um, then he'll give you access to the ports." So in exchange, they were like, "Bro, you'll be exiled from America." So that's how the whole um, the mafia ended up in Cuba, and that we're not going to go too deep into that. But the Rothschild family, in 500ish so 600ish so years ago, the Rothschild family was literally you take over financing in France, you take over financing in England, you take over financing in Spain, and he literally sent all his sons and grandsons to literally take over financing through the use of usury. So that's you can find that in the Rothschild book, and according to them, I mean they have lineage back to the pharaohs of Egypt. So, and then when you look at true history, you also will find out more in the Creatures of Jekyll Island, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Vanderbilts, J.P. Morgan. All these guys kind of came together, gave positive propaganda to Hitler, and then so they pretty much funded him in the 1930s. So obviously there was a Zionist movement within England that literally, paid Hitler to allow um, German Jews to go back to the Ottoman Empire and to like relocate to what we know as modern day Israel in Palestine today. So that's how all that happened, and just to kind of ignore that, um, yeah, is just flawed.
They have a lot of power. How did they do it?
I mean, look, I haven't studied Jewish power struggles or how they made their money or anything like that. That's not really, I mean,
But you know what I'm asking?
I do, and I don't really have a direct answer for it because I haven't studied it, so I'm not going to guess. But, I just look at this whole thing of, they're obviously doing really fucking well. I don't know why it's constantly like a victim card thing.
You think it's worth studying? You think it's worth studying to see what they did?
Yeah.
I remember one time I'm in LA, I'm with this guy named David. He owned a dealership, Jewish guy. First time in my life I saw $1 million cash. I'd never seen it before. I just come out of the army. I'm like, hey, how the hell do you guys, Jews? I grew up in Iran, so we have a lot of Persian Jews. how do you guys always make so much money? And he said the most fascinating thing. He said, when one of us makes money, five of us makes money. I'm like, what does that mean? We always do business together. We always go into deals together. We're always finding ways to do business together. Do you know from that moment when I was 21 years old, when I started my insurance company at 30 years old, you know why was one of the reasons we never lost the vice president of the company? And I'm in Vegas right now because I got a convention at MGM for this week with 10,000 people there. We give our guys equity. So our guys own the company. So it wasn't like it's my commission. That idea of equity came from that Jewish, dealership guy I met at 21 years old.
Listen, I get it. I mean, good for them. I don't have a problem with that. I don't care if they help each other out and whatever, they band together. My issue is when they fucking put their country ahead of our country, when they're living in our country and they're politicians in our country. And I care when our country is hurt to help their country. That's what I fucking care about. I don't give a shit if they band together. I don't care if they give each other special treatment, whatever. I mean, I'd like to stop hearing about the fucking victim card bullshit every time I fucking turn around, because they're not victims. They're crushing in every fucking category. And, and they like constantly refer to the Holocaust when they're the biggest Holocaust deniers of the fucking planet. They deny the Armenian Holocaust, which, like half of my people got wiped out, half of your people got wiped out. They deny that. So I don't think it's right for them to whine about the Holocaust and force feed every single fucking children, all the fucking children and students, this fucking Holocaust narrative and hijack the entire fucking World War II and make it about the fucking Jews when like 85 million people fucking died during World War II. It wasn't all about the fucking Jews, but they make every movie about the fucking struggling Jews and how they had to fucking endure all this stuff. And yet, they can't recognize the Armenian Holocaust. We lost half our population. They didn't lose half their population, but yet we have to hear about it every fucking movie, every classroom, every museum, nonstop on every show.
But why though?
Why what? Why do they play the victim card so much?
So, okay, so let me ask you, who made the movie about Armenian genocide?
But yeah, I didn't really want to dive too deep into this. Um, of course, like I said, I really feel like Pat, as far as the topic when it comes to Israel and Judaism and stuff like that, he kind of plays like this both sides kind of thing. He tries to definitely stay in the middle ground, kind of like Pierce Morgan. But y'all definitely look at those books. I'm definitely gonna give more knowledge on those books, more information that I do have. But definitely America first. Um, but y'all be good. Y'all be safe. Peace.